Dynamite download.
AEW 2020, John Silver.
Special event, as you can see, SPD.
For a splashing good time. January recruitment month for them.
I come along, you know. I come along in the ring.
I mean, I would not want to. I would not want to.
Welcome to Dynamite Download. Boom! What's up, gentlemen?
What's
Making
going
crayfish
on?
better late than never. What's up, guys?
I'm here. I'm ready.
There
I'm
he is.
excited.
You are here.
If you said wrestling and tacos, I'm in.
You are in. That's a long shirt to read, but I appreciate
Taco
it anyway.
Tuesday. It's the Tuesday before AEW takes a bite out of the Big Apple. Grand Slam, baby. SPD.
Well said.
This is a card that feels like, and we talk
Sneak
about this
peek.
all the time, folks. AEW has a lot of these big shows, but when you have Bryan Danielson going against Kenny Omega on this card, I mean, guys, that alone as a draw. Shut up and take my money. I mean, this is gonna be a great night. I cannot wait to hear what you guys have. You know, if you're booking by Bonds, I want to hear some of your insights on this.
Yeah.
And SPD, I know this is gonna be in your home turf of the Big Apple. Can't wait to hear what you think about tomorrow night's show. Let's dive in, guys. Let's get started. SPD.
Yeah. The first match we're going to talk about is the salt of the earth himself and Brian Pillman Jr. And
We have to start off with that dirtbag.
I know
Not Brian Pillman Jr. But MJF,
right. You got to get the turd and flush it out of the way so you can have a clean toilet, a clean smelling bathroom, and all that. So you got to get the stench out of the way. But MJF has been on a roll with his promos. Obviously, like he always spits those golden promos for sure. And Brian Pillman is absorbing those punches and throwing his own punches. Man, he's standing toe to toe with him. And we've heard other people talk high praise of Pillman Jr.
Yeah,
and we've all collectively have seen his growth over the past few weeks and months, and it's been fun to watch for sure. And so you have essentially, after his hometown Cincinnati, this babyface rise going so high, and anyone against MJF is going to have a crazy babyface run, because he's just everyone really wants to jump the barricades and beat him up, including fans. So, Bonds, how are you feeling about this one?
I love the fact that there's two young up-and-coming talents. I wouldn't say MJF's an up-and-coming talent, but he's a young talent.
Right.
Pillman, more of the same. The dude's been great the last couple of weeks or months even. I think he's really improved on the microphone, and I think that pairing with MJF is going to just make him that much better every time he goes out there. He's got to step his game up. Whenever you're going against one of the best in the business, you have to raise that bar. Iron sharpens iron, like we like to say on this show. And I think Pillman's one of those guys who could really benefit from this feud, really puts him up in a different tier. And that's going to be really exciting, especially as a fan of both of these guys. Obviously, like we like to make fun of MJF a little bit for being a dirtbag, but we are all fans of the talent he brings. And Pillman is obviously holding up his end of the bargain as well. So
loves MJF as much as you, Bonds. We've all kind of become as we're reaching the year milestone here at Dynamite Download, and we've all kind of developed our own favorites, and I think that the fans who listen along kind of enjoy listening to like my take on a certain wrestler or two, and yours and SPD's. I think we all have gained that, and without a doubt, you have become the MJF fanboy here at Dynamite Download, and you've been preaching his you've been giving all the praise that is needed because it always makes SPD squirm whenever he has to say anything nice about MJF.
We have to balance it out.
Bonds has no problem complimenting him, and for good reason. I mean, MJF is everything he says he is. And this Bonds pointed it out. Iron sharpens iron. I think this is a great example of this. MJF has been through the ringer in a lot of high-profile feuds, and I think that this is AEW kind of saying, hey, we know MJF is going to get nuclear heat. This is a great opportunity to see what Pillman can bring to the table because MJF's going to check the boxes on his side.
Right.
Can Pillman hang with MJF in a promo battle? And we've seen clear growth in ring. His work with Griff Garrison and the Varsity Blondes has really, I think he's becoming a star in his own right.
Right.
Bonds, you're right on the money when you talk about this being, I think, a huge opportunity for Brian Pillman Jr. I think that like you said, MJF is not a young up-and-coming star. MJF is a solidified entity, a commodity in this business that you can bank on. This is where AEW is starting to feel the waters for what Brian Pillman Jr. can be. This is a huge opportunity for this youngster.
Yeah, completely agree. This is going to see how far he can go as quickly as he can go. Because if this works, and this works really well, then there's no reason not to continue to elevate him and see how much he can take, see how far he can go as a singles performer. And we love seeing him with the Varsity Blondes, but this is a different vibe, a different feel, and I like that he's getting that different vibe, different feel. They're testing the waters with him, and that's kind of like he's got the Brian Pillman name. Let's see if he can live up to the Brian Pillman game.
And that's some of the commentary going on in the chat right now. I think we've seen MJF really get personal really quick, and that's nothing new for MJF, right? I mean, but for Bonds, even you had moments where you were cringing a little bit, where he was stomping down, wanting to talk to Pillman's father in hell, or talking about abortions and things like that with the Pillman family. I mean, this guy was willing to go to great lengths to get the kind of heat that will put the Pillman in a position to shine as a babyface.
Yeah.
But I think that it's getting to a point where somebody's got to check MJF because he's so willing to go personal and he's so willing to kind of do whatever he wants because he's got Wardlow to have his back. He's got the Pinnacle to have his back. He runs his mouth. And I think that we might be seeing MJF. I mean, you just talked about living up to Pillman, the Pillman's father's legacy, the loose cannon. How far can a man get pushed? How personal can you make things? I mean, Pillman has been known as a goody two-shoes so far in his run in AEW. Do we see Pillman kind of finally like push back and show signs of like his dad, that crazy side of him? Can Pillman bring the violence to MJF that kind of scares him off a little bit? I think that it would be nice to see the bully get punched in the nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is an interesting, before we move to the next match, I want to get both of your guys' take who's going to get the W on this one. But I agree with you. Someone does need to check MJF, and I think that person ultimately will be Wardlow down the line. And I think we've seen those seeds planted, and I feel like we're going to see more of that tomorrow. And, talking about these young stars, Bonds, being featured, a lot of this talent, we got 11 matches over, 2 shows, which is pretty crazy. That's that's pretty much all out right there for free TV. This will be the first time they've experienced, some of them, a singles match in this big of a setting in terms of crowd. And on important,
it's going to be a huge crowd.
It's going to be a huge crowd. They're talking up, maybe 20,000. But that being said, I think, me personally, MJF's going to win. He talked about his whole undefeated. For him to drop back-to-back losses, granted, heels can lose more and still be relevant to me versus baby faces. I think this is just going to further elevate the ultimate payoff where Wardlow does check and put MJ, shut him up, and then turn him into, a white hot baby face. So I got MJF, winning in a spirited bout. And I do think this could open the show just just to, the crowd would be behind any match, but this one would be a fun opener as well. So
yeah, I'm on board with you, man. I think that you have to protect MJF a little bit because they've done such a good job protecting him thus far in his career.
Sure.
You can't just have him go and lose another match immediately after losing to Chris Jericho on pay-per-view.
Yeah, and Chris told him that at the bar too.
Yeah, it's just not, you can't do that, man. It doesn't work for me. And I think that Pillman can take a loss to MJF and still look good. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that it could lead to a bigger storyline again with maybe Wardlow. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like it could be pretty awesome. We've all been kind of wanting that for the past year.
Exactly. I think that'll be his next loss. MJF's next loss will be to Wardlow.
Wardlow as a breakout star at the end of the calendar year. Just imagine like the crowd with Wardlow rising up against MJF. I think the people really want that. I think that again, Wardlow, every time he's on screen, it feels like it's something special. It's a special event.
Always.
I'm gonna make it a clean sweep here at Dynamite Download. I do think that MJF pulls this one off. I think we've seen it countless times in the course of AEW's history. Someone can benefit from a loss, and I think that AEW does that better than most companies. We've seen a lot of guys get in the ring with someone who's established as a top guy and push them and come close, and AEW, where I think they do differently than most other companies, is that they strike all the irons hot. If Pillman can go into this match, push MJF, get a couple close calls, and have maybe MJF winning via, being a dirtbag and maybe some cheating or some kind of things like that.
Yeah,
it only makes the crowd that more interested in Pillman.
Yeah,
and it makes them want him to get that revenge on MJF. And I think that AEW will see and they have seen the reaction that Pillman's been getting throughout this feud. They're gonna know not to let that just fade. They're gonna keep going with this.
Sure.
And so I think AEW will look at this as a win-win. MJF gains a victory and can get back to his braggadocious ways. Yep. We need MJF to be that overly cocky heel because, honestly, a lot of the heels in AEW aren't that like, I mean, you got the Young Bucks are kind of dweebs. Malachi Black here as a heel. There's so many of the heels that kind of are so good that they're popular. And Malachi Black is one of the top names in the roster right now that strike me. He's so different than MJF, and that's what I mean. MJF is such an absolute jerk that you want to see him get his comeuppance. Malachi, he is one of those guys, man, that I see it on social. No one wants to see this dude lose. Right. Because they don't want that mystique to be broken. They're a lot of people are out there. They're vibing with what Malachi Black is doing in AEW right now.
Oh, I agree. I think we're going to get a riot if he loses.
A lot of those signs are funny.
Up for that then, because I'm on Team Cody. I'm maybe that's the inner heel in me.
Wow.
I want Cody to win this match. And I'm putting my heels in. I've seen. It's a very unpopular opinion on social media, but I think that Cody, with Roads to the Top coming out, I think that with the way this feud's been presented, I mean, just the graphic alone, guys, Malachi Black in the all-black suit, Cody in the all-white suit, these two guys, they get what professional wrestling is, and a performance art. They know how to captivate fans.
Sure.
They know the visual aesthetics are important, and they're both incredibly intelligent guys. And I think that if you allow these two to have a program with each other where they're presented as equals, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for AEW to blossom and really build around this feud, because I don't see where you go after this with these two guys. I think they both need this program.
It's a tough spot, I think, for this one. I think for Cody to return triumphantly sooner than I kind of expected, but it's timing, obviously for his show. Just all that kind of warped together. He almost needs to win for that part. But at the same time, you should be riding Malachi's wave. I mean, I keep going back and forth how this would play out, but I think this would be ultimately for either guy would be a perfect time to have a debut. Or I loved how Malachi Black came out with the hood on and calling everyone in the House of Black, please stand, and all that. And so he's hinting to me as kind of a stable forming.
Yep.
And so this would be a perfect time to introduce a stable member. So if that being said, you can introduce a stable member whether you win or lose, and
that would make sense to have. It would make sense for that stable member to help him win, right?
Right, it would for sure.
That was one of the things that we talked about to Malachi. That was our question here, Dynamite Download, to him, is the House of Black, and I think that you're onto something there, SPD. And honestly, it feels like Malachi's the face to a lot of fans out there, and Bonds. This is one of the things, when I went back and watched last week's Dynamite Download recap, it was just Bonds and I vibing. And sometimes I sit back and I think, Bonds, I want you to take the floor on this, because I felt like you really presented the fact that Cody is going to be something for a certain segment of the fan base, and he's going to be something completely different for another segment of this fan base. And I think Malachi does the same thing, but Cody – really, I think that you nailed it with your take. I want to hear, what do you think, man? Because there is a lot of talk, like SPD just said, there's a lot of talk of Bray Wyatt potentially debuting in AEW sooner than people anticipated in New York City. I mean, we were all there at All Out, and we know that when AEW delivers a big surprise to the fans, the crowd will go crazy.
Yeah.
What do you think about, how do you see this one playing out? Booking by Bonds book this match? Because honestly, this is the most controversial match that I've seen on social media for this show.
It is. Following
Twitter, being involved in the conversations with you guys out there, there's a lot of debate about this match.
Yeah, man. This one's the toughest one to book in a lot of ways, because it could go so many different ways, especially if we're talking about potentially having people debut. That completely changes it, because then are we going to actually have a match? Are we going to have that real finish? Are we going to have that happen? Are we going to have somebody come in there and beat up Cody Rhodes and kind of change how that all goes? And honestly, I think that might play into the most interesting story. If you don't even have this end up in a real match, have this be just a
fight.
Somebody comes in, a fight, and have somebody come in there and kind of play spoiler and kind of ruin that grudge match against these guys. That might be the most fun and entertaining way we get something out of this to go long term. We want to stretch it out. We don't want Malachi to lose this quick, and we don't want Cody to lose twice.
What happens to Cody? That's my thing. Is what happens to Cody if he loses to Malachi here? And I'm not going
to square one.
Yeah. What happens to both of them? Because let's be honest, like Malachi losing this quick, he's only had a couple matches. It's not like he's been around for 6 months and he's undefeated. He's been only around for a month or so, and he's had a couple matches. Mm-hmm. And what happens to Malachi if he loses this quick? Yeah. And he's been great in these matches. He's dominated everybody. And how weird would it be if he goes and beats up Cody his first match in a couple minutes, and then his second match just loses clean? You can't do that. It's not going to work. Optically, it doesn't work. So for me, I think that makes the most sense. You have somebody maybe debut, or you have something happen during the match that sets that up, and then you potentially have some really good long-term storytelling between these guys. I don't even know if I want to pick a winner, because I don't even think that's really the point. I don't think that's the real story. I think that it's probably going to be about building Malachi up and having him have this going that's almost like a polar opposite of him. He kind of represents everything that Malachi doesn't represent. Cody, it's going to be very unique and different. And I think that the storyline could play out as something that we're in a month or two. We're really excited about what's happening, because these guys are, top tier performers. Obviously, Cody's been in some awesome feuds already, and Malachi, just in the little bit of time we've gotten to see him in AEW, has made an insane impression on everybody. So I think it's pretty clear that like Malachi's a star here, and they give him his own press conference during the fan
true.
fest. So
that is
they
true.
know what they have with this guy. Like, they know that he's going to be a long-term.
That's why even though I struggle with like how things progress from a Cody loss. The only way that happens is if they do a dusty finish, and I don't know if that ends up happening. I could see that, but I can't disagree with those people out there that say Malachi shouldn't lose in this match. I mean, if I'm taking a step back, I do understand Malachi's trajectory right now. You feel like you almost have to keep that aura around him, make him feel like he's.
If he loses, he's just another guy.
Right. I get that point, and I think that Cody is basically bulletproof. He's never going to lose credibility in the eyes of the fans. I just struggle a little bit with, if Cody loses this convincingly over and over and over again to Malachi, does that mean that Cody might step away from AEW? And I personally don't want to see that. I understand the man has a lot of roles. He plays a lot of roles in AEW, and he has a lot of roles in life as a human being. And so I can understand why maybe stepping away from the product would make sense, but he just came back, and I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the product is better when Cody is a part of it. And I know that that might not be a popular take, and that might be one of the most heel opinions that I have in the night. But I'm on Team Cody, man. I want Cody to somehow find a way. And then that to drive Malachi to go go off the deep end and make it, and make it that maybe Cody winning causes Malachi to dig deeper and go darker than he's ever gone before. And maybe that's what causes him to bring out the House of Black. I don't know. All I know is that this match is highly controversial. It's a feud that I think is going to get a lot of eyes on the product. But to me, as the tag team guy, I feel like a feud that escalated really quickly, FTR versus Darby and Sting. This is one of those where it feels like, okay, like we talk about it a lot. Let's stretch out feuds and let's build to something bigger. Man, this just feels like one of those, like it's a cannonball shot to your gut. I mean, this one came out of nowhere at Dynamite to see what FTR did and how personal they were willing to make that out of nowhere. I'm stoked to see this because you got the best tag team on the planet against Darby Allin, who we all know, Crayfish, the conductor of the Darby Express. This kid's ceiling is as high as anyone's in this business, and he's paired with an icon. And there's so many layers of this that can get unraveled in the course of this match. SPD, we didn't get to hear your take really on this one. What did you think about what we saw at Dynamite? That just that disgusting beatdown that the top guys put on the Stinger.
Top guys from the Pinnacle, because you're the Pinnacle on top. I mean, this was definitely an impressive week for FTR, what we saw out of them. A pretty great match with Seidel and Dante Martin, which is absolutely incredible stuff he does in the ring. But then they showed up again, and as they're doing legend killer stuff, man, that is absolutely brutal for sure. And it did make me cringe when I did see them put that pile driver on Sting. But this is the version of FTR. They've sent some kind of skewed messaging online and all that, and so I'm happy to see them kind of back in the spotlight. Well, they are back in the spotlight. I mean, you're going against two of the top baby faces in Darby and Sting. Anyone against Darby, you being the conductor of the Darby Express, this is something special for sure. And I think we haven't seen much anyone really take out Sting and Darby. When they're together, they're on like another level, taking out, Team Taz and Men of the Year and all that. So I think FTR is definitely near the top in terms of teams that could knock them down a notch or two, So I think you have to have Tully kind of interfere from the side and FTR take a win on this one for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, SPD. FTR is last week almost looked like they're on a different level, and I think that iron is hot, and this might be the way to reestablish FTR in a lot of ways because I think since joining the Pinnacle, they've kind of been teetering on this like almost they're ready to go for those titles, and then they're not, and then they had a big win, and then they Cash gets hurt, and they have to kind of bow out of that whole potential title run they might have been going after because they looked like they were on fire, and then they come back this week or last week now, and they looked awesome.
Yeah,
they looked awesome the whole show, and I think that you could really get them heel heat. Obviously, like the heat was nasty on Wednesday, but you can make it even worse if you have them beat Sting and Darby. That's a way to really do and have them just play into that just dirtbag behavior. Just play into that and make it even more intense. And then you could have a long feud out of this, or you could have something else that happens as well. You could maybe have them move on and just be like, okay, well, we're FTR again. We're established. We're the best tag team in the world, and we're going to be going for those titles. And that's maybe a way to establish that. Like, hey, this is our level we're on. We just beat, Sting, who's on a lot of Mount Rushmores out there, and Darby Allin, who's every 15-year-old favorite wrestler, and Crayfish too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a really interesting way to kind of reestablish them in that title picture without having them feuding with the champs. And it might be really fun and kind of a cool way to get them back in that game.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, I think that FTR, you talked about how they win this match, and I think that FTR showed the blueprint of why they are as good as they claim to be. When they're in a tag match, they're always very purposeful in how they act, and they take a lot of pride in kind of respecting the rules, but also knowing how to bend them. And,
respecting the rules.
anytime that a referee has its back turned, you always know that FTR are going to be doing whatever they can to take those cheap shots. Mm-hmm. They're very smart wrestlers. And I think their respect and love for the game has at times been a detriment to them because they're willing, they recognize, hey, there's no taking away what FTR's done to this point in their careers. No. There are other teams and other superstars that can use the spotlight. FTR and the tag division as a whole has taken a step back a little bit, I feel like, in the scheme of AEW. And I think it's time that FTR helps lead the comeback for this division. I think that a strong FTR is really good for AEW as a whole. I personally think that they're excellent at what they do, and they respect the business in a way that will make the product better. Just by being, like you said, Bonds, being viewed as legitimate title contenders. And I think getting a convincing win, even if it's through kind of underhanded tactics against big name superstars like the Stinger and Darby, it's a great way to put them over again.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think they need it big time. They do and they don't, because they've kind of been bouncing around, but this will definitely elevate them to a top heel team right now, and then ultimately could give them a title shot down the line, which would be fun because they never did get their rematch on that for sure. So I think this is a smart booking, and FTR to me is going to go over for sure.
Well, that's interesting. I think that it's SPD. You just said they need it and they don't need it. I posed the question. You guys don't, obviously. We'll just think about this. Let it simmer. Do they need it more than Darby? After Darby losing to CM Punk, does he get beat down again? The only thing I'll say is, in typical Darby fashion, most of his feuds start to build after he gets destroyed. So maybe this is the makings of something greater, and FTR really destroys them, and it takes Darby to another level. It makes Darby dig deeper. I don't know. I do like that we're all on Team FTR, though. I'll tell you that much. Right. I'm not going to argue that one.
That's for sure. And I think we're all on team. Well, I don't know how you guys feeling, but I know Crayfish, whose team he's on, is the
I'll
D.
let you guys talk about this.
D. I'm glad, in typical AEW fashion, they don't stretch out too much of these kind of rewarded title shots that we've seen in casino battle royales and things like that. You're not holding on to a briefcase for 6 to 8 months, waiting to get that, or booking, WrestleMania out 8 months in advance or whatever it may be. So them to get that, this face-to-face last week was absolutely gold, man. They were throwing haymakers back and forth, and they were standing tall for sure. But unanimously, the consensus for sure is that Britt Baker's not losing this title anytime soon, no matter who comes across right now. Like you say, Cray, by hook or by crook. You're gonna have to literally pry it out of her broken wrists, fingers, hands, get that title out of her hands, because she's riding that wave, and she's elevating not only AEW but the women's division to another, stratosphere, having the gold around her waist and shoulder. And so, even though Ruby Soho, we love what she's doing, and the addition to the roster is extremely welcomed and a huge boost to the women's division, this match deserves a spotlight, deserves a main event, which unfortunately won't get, but it will be one that we're talking about for a while for sure. But Britt Baker is definitely defending this. And yes, if Ruby does come up short, I still got some momentum going with that. And I hope she does still stay feuding with, Team DMD as well, which we've seen. So the division is quickly starting to get, thicker and thicker and deeper, and, with the Brijo coming back too, and seeing more depth and diversity of the women's matches on TV. So
you've been calling for that. And I think that they're really hitting the need to do just that. SPD, they're building a lot of stars in this division. Ruby, talk about building stars. Ruby held her own when she was tested, going toe to toe with the best on the mic. Britt, I've talked about it time and again. Britt throws these haymakers in her promos that will knock most people on their ass. And Ruby showed that she'll take a punch and she'll throw one right back at her.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to give credit where credit's due. I think Ruby has proven right here that she can be a legitimate star in her own right. She does not need to be involved necessarily in the world title scene to make people want to hear her or see her. And so that's a good thing. Now, the reason why it's a good thing is because she's not going to beat Britt Baker. It ain't happening, son. DMD's championship reign is going to go on for a long, long time, folks. I will say, again, props to Ruby. Clearly has taken this seriously. You could tell that she's fired up. She wants this opportunity. And I think that she's going to do some great things in AEW. This division is going to benefit a lot from having a veteran like her on the roster. And she's going to have some awesome matchups with a lot of people, but it's not going to be for the AEW Women's Championship. I'll tell you that right now.
Ooh.
The DMD is going to win this one. There's only one competitor out there that I think can take that belt out of her hands, and we all know who that is. Bonds, what do you think, bud? You think that the DMD is going to take down the Runaway?
I do. I think that Britt is at a different level right now, and I agree. The only way we want to see Britt maybe lose that title, we don't want to see it, but the only person we want to see her drop that strap to is not going to be in this match. And I think that it'd be a disservice to the story if that's not how the belt is moved. I think that a quick little feud like this that's just kind of started after All Out, we don't really want to see that quick, just like that title change. No, especially if somebody that's just got here, Ruby's obviously everybody's super excited for her coming to AEW, but you don't want to see somebody just show up and win that title immediately. I think that'd be bad optically, especially somebody who just was with WWE. You don't want to have somebody come in and be like, hey, look, I just beat your top women in the division immediately and I'm better. You know what I mean?
So Britt is so important to AEW as a whole. I get what you're saying, Bob. I get that. It
just, to me, optically it wouldn't look the best. And I just don't think that that's going to happen. Part of, I was surprised she won the Battle Royale because of that just anyway. I thought that was surprising. Like, oh wow, like they're really going in on Ruby, which is great. I mean, I think she's an awesome talent and competitor, and that's great that she's getting this opportunity. But I think it's more of a showcase than anything. Like, hey, look, like she's going to go toe to toe with Britt Baker and have a great match, and we're probably going to see some Jamie Hayter. We're probably going to see some Rebel, and that's probably what's going to end up keeping that title on Britt. And that's good because that's going to just elevate the division even more. And that's what we all want to see.
And who wouldn't want to see a potential program between Jamie Hayter and Ruby, right? I mean,
exactly.
That could be something that could spiral out of a loss. You could have a cool program where I know there's a lot of Hayter fans out there. That would be a cool little program right there.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think that this is an opportunity to showcase for everyone to see what Ruby can do. And I think, again, as the DMD fanboy here, I'll just say it. The more opportunities that Britt gets to go toe to toe with people like Ruby, people like Thunder, veterans in the business who are intelligent, who know how to put on a great match, who know how to make their opponent look like $1 million, the more opportunities that Britt has to go and have those kind of matchups for her title reign, the more I think people are going to see what she's truly capable of. Now, there was the Nyla feud, I feel like fell a little flat because I didn't feel like there was that give and take, a recognition that Nyla's role was to be the gatekeeper of the division and make Britt look like the $1 million as the champ. And I think that you have veterans like Ruby on this roster to say, okay, Thunder, when we talked to Thunder in our interview with her, she said, when my time comes, it will be great. But I know that I can be patient until that time comes. I think Ruby will have her time as champion, but their role right now in this division is to build each other up. And the DMD has carried this division when it was very absent of a lot of great talent. The DMD carried this division through some tough times. I think that the division needs to give back to the good doctor and let her have a good reign that represents all she did for this company before she was champ. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think you're right on the money, man. I think that Britt needs to have a long title reign. Britt needs to be rewarded for being the most entertaining part of the division for the better part of a year. And I don't think it's really all that close. And that's why it's important that she is the champ as the DMD, like in her role, doing her thing and just being on top. And I think that this is going to just continue to grow her confidence even as a champion, which is nuts. She's only been the champion for a little while, guys. Like this is still ascending and growing. Oh, exactly.
It was, she's only had maybe 3 to 4 title defenses. Not too many. I mean, she's been featured a lot and, different matches and stuff, but I think 3 to 4 total title defenses. But we'll shift gears into the main event, and then I want to get your guys' take on Rampage, what match you guys are looking forward to most on Rampage. But the main event, some clear stuff about this one, which we kind of talked about. Title is not on the line for this. So that's a kind of a little something going on for sure. But Kenny Omega, he went to a Waffle House once in North Carolina. And Bryan Danielson, the man, he is here. The leader of the Yes Movement has made his jump to AEW. And the hottest selling plain white tee on the market for sure with Bryan Danielson. But, man, this is going to be – obviously, we've people say dream matches and just pure wrestling, pure like grappling and moves and technique and storytelling. I mean, does it get much better than this? I mean, really, it's going to be. We keep saying that, and AEW, keeps kind of like one up in us, but I think the crowd is going to be incredibly blown away for this one. It's just going to be one of those where I'll probably be standing in my hotel room watching it, standing up for sure. So. Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, as I talked about a few weeks ago on our shows, that I think like booking this is smart, that being his first match, but Bryan Danielson's going to take the W and then maybe get beat down and then there'll be a kind of a save. But then some kind of maybe segue for Bryan Danielson to fight someone else in the time being. and then have Hangman focus on the title, win the title, and then Kenny and Brian can still feud down the line. So the way I see this going, I mean, I hope this one gets 25, 30 minutes. I know they have 5 matches on the card, and all 5 matches deserve a lot of time. So I hope they don't do,
I hope it's not the main event then.
Yeah, right. We'll get a 4-minute main event like last 2 weeks.
It's got to be the main event. I think it's got to be the main event.
Yeah. And I am just joking. The main event has been getting squeezed for time for the last few weeks. I think that you're right, SBD. I mean, obviously, Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega is a match that they could wrestle for an hour, and I think it could
be the whole show.
It could be the show. Everybody would be happy. But if I'm TK, I think that you need to hold some cards close to your chest. I think this one's not a one and done. I think that this match, these guys,
no way,
gotta have that epic bout. And that's why I'm curious. I mean, do you like? I think it would only play into the way these promos have gone thus far. That Bryan Danielson called out Kenny for hiding behind his stooges. What role does Michael Nakazawa, Brandon Cutler, Young Bucks, Good Brother, Adam Cole, what role do these guys play in this match? And do you see a clean finish is I think the biggest question of this one, because I don't know if you could book this as a clean one side wins over the other and feel like, I don't know. It's tough, right? I mean, Bonds, talk to me here. What would you do?
It's tough, man. I talked about on last week's show, on last week's Dynamite Download, I talked about how it would make a lot of sense if this is kind of that jolt for Kenny Omega. Like maybe he loses to Danielson and kind of has that coming to Jesus moment in a way where he's like, oh man, like I'm like, he's right. Like these guys are kind of like pushing me in this certain way, and it's not really working anymore, and they're basically cheating for me to win, and it's not really me winning anymore, and like all this kind of stuff might kind of come back on Kenny, and he might kind of have a realization like, oh man, this isn't really working anymore with this elite stuff, and especially with Adam Cole coming in the picture too. Like this stable's getting pretty stacked, pretty big, here, guys. Like it's almost like too big for its britches. How do they lose? So maybe this is that feud that kind of brings Kenny Omega back to reality a little bit. Maybe he drops Don, which we don't want to see because Don is the man. We don't want to see that happen, but that might be, a casualty here. We might see a feud with Danielson and maybe Adam Cole. That sounds interesting too. There's a lot of different things that this could really result in, and I'm so excited for the match itself because, as we know, like we've watched them wrestle before a long time ago. And these guys are 2 of the best wrestlers like on the planet. And they're, this isn't for the title, which kind of stinks. I would like to see a title match with these guys, but I understand it. I understand why it's not. And I think that would be a little too soon.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think this is going to be a clean match. I think that the Elite might do something this might be one of those matches where Kenny loses because of the Elite. This might be one of those. I wouldn't be surprised. Where somebody kind of gets involved. Maybe Brandon Cutler accidentally sprays him in the face with cold spray, and Danielson gets in there and pins him. It might be one of those kind of finishes where I don't know if the Elite are going to be beneficial for Kenny. And I think that might be where they're going with this storyline. Danielson's already alluded to that. He said, hey, like your stooges in the back are doing all this stuff, and you're really not doing anything. You even have Don Callis talking for you. Like you're not even doing your own promos.
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that would play into that setup in the storyline. So if they're going that direction, I'm all for it. I think that would be a really interesting way to turn Kenny back to a babyface, and kind of have him lose the title in a different way. Obviously, he's not going to lose the title. It's not on the line, but have him lose it down the line as a different character than we currently see. That might be more interesting.
Yeah, you talked about like this being sort of the precipice of Bryan Danielson kind of helping Kenny Omega find the light again. And I like that idea. I think that's a really interesting story. If it ends up playing out that, through the mutual love of incredible professional wrestling, Bryan Danielson helps bring Kenny out of the darkness of the Don Callis as kind of the evil emperor kind of whispering in his ear. I like that idea. And I think that would be really a compelling story, and it would be great to see Kenny finally come back on the good guy side one day. I like that. And I do think that it would make a lot of sense to have antics play a role in this match, because I think that we as fans, this has to be a match that is going to be for the title down the road. This has to be a match that has big stakes and has it all on the line. I like that we're getting this for free on TV. It's going to be a blast to watch. Yeah. I can't wait to just see them stand across from each other for the first time in the ring, ready to go. That moment is going to be awesome.
It's going to be huge.
I think it's going to be like one of those electrifying moments where they're face to face and the crowd is just so loud. That's just, to me as a performer, it's like got to be so amazing, where you're literally two people that you want to see fight so bad, like literally they can just stand there and look at each other, and the crowd just literally losing their mind, crapping their pants and throwing it at them. Like, and they got to milk that. To me, they got to just let soak it in, breathe in that adrenaline, and then just have a banger match. The
best match of their careers.
But you're gonna get fueled by this crowd. I mean, it's gonna be incredible. So, we all consensus that Bryan Danielson's gonna take the W on this one?
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense for the Kenny's antics to backfire, and then Bryan can kind of have that "I told you so" moment, and that could make Kenny want to prove it that much more and put the belt on the line. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So this card tomorrow is incredible, and I hope, like we said, they do not spare, they do not short any matches and all that, because each one of these matches deserves the quality time. But moving in, this being the Grand Slam week, 4 hours that they extended Rampage. We've talked about this on a show a few weeks ago, of like, because there's so depth of this roster and so much going on, I feel like they need to add another 30 minutes or another hour. I feel like they're testing the waters, dipping their toes in there, testing the waters. Granted, not every week on Rampage is going to be a pay-per-view quality card, but they could keep pushing it like that so they can get those late-night viewers, like if they decide to do the 10 to midnight. I mean, that's a long time, late on Friday night. So to me, dipping the waters for 30 minutes. I don't know if the network would go for 30 versus, a full hour or what it may be, but I feel like they are in desperate need of a little bit extra TV time right now. And I think a lot of people are maybe shocked at how fast they need this, because, Rampage this is like week 5 or 6 of Rampage, I think. So very fresh, just over a month old, because the 13th, August 13th was the first one in Pittsburgh. So looking at Rampage, I'm curious of what match you guys are looking forward to the most. We have, Anna Jay versus the Bunny. We have Lucha Brothers, Santana and Ortiz versus HFO. We have the Men of the Year versus Inner Circle. We have Powerhouse Hobbs versus CM Punk. We have Adam Cole Bay and the Young Bucks versus Christian Cage and Jurassic Express.
Oh my gosh.
Plus Eddie Kingston, John Moxley versus Suzuki and Archer. So
I thought, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'll throw up the match card of your choice. Which one are you looking forward to the most? I know I just ran them off real quick.
Oh, I know my choice.
What about you guys in the chat? Let us know in the chat which one on Rampage you're looking forward to.
Yeah, let us know in the chat. We want to see what you guys think as well.
So throw some out there, because I'm struggling.
Man, the match I'm most excited about might be a surprise, but it's CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs.
That's no surprise to me.
Fair enough. But the reason why is I want to see how Hobbs is presented in this match. I want to see how far he pushes CM Punk, because that to me will tell how much Tony Khan is invested in this guy as a young, up and coming beast of a performer who could be one of those guys on the roster that is like one of the only big guys that just can dominate people. And that's what I really want to see out of this. I want to see if Powerhouse Hobbs can go in there and have an awesome match with a guy like CM Punk. Because Punk's wrestled Darby already, and Darby can get a good match out of anybody. But a bigger guy like Hobbs, who should be able to bully around CM Punk, I want to see that Powerhouse Hobbs against CM Punk and see if he can live up to what we really want from Powerhouse. We love the guy. We want to see him be a top contender in this company, and this is the first step to that. And I can't wait for this match more than any of the other ones. And there's a lot of awesome matches on this card. But the one I'm most excited about is that one for Powerhouse, because I want to see where he is by the end of that match.
All right, man. I like it. I really like that. I mean, I agree. I mean, the way, Punk said it early on, how he wanted to work with Powerhouse, and I'm kind of surprised how soon it is, and I'm grateful for it. And we, us talking to Powerhouse and just seeing his growth in the ring and his comfort level in the ring and his physique and the way his mannerisms are all improving. And I was just looking at this match card again, and I think this is the first time we've seen Hook kind of presented in like wrestling gear. He's got the tape fist and he's got some trunks on. So other than the wife beater he's been rocking. So, Crayfish, what match are you looking forward to the most? I mean, this is going to be a great card. A lot of people featured on this card for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you're rattling and that all off, right away I was like, oh, easy, Lucha Bros versus Santana and Ortiz. I mean, that to me is going to be killer. How many of us have been frothing at the mouth to see Santana and Ortiz get a shot at the belts? And
it's them versus team. Oh, they're teaming up.
They're going against HFO.
Yeah, look at that. So they're going to first be friends, then maybe down the line be foes. But
all right, man, because I really want to see that match. All right, so if that's off the table, I like the tag match there. I think that like having those four go against each other in 8-man, I like that. But I'm with Bonds here. I think that Hobbs versus CM Punk, especially after hearing Bonds go off like that. It's true. I think that, Hobbs is on Team Crayfish for a reason. I think that guy is the real deal, and I think he's going to absolutely kill it. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for this guy, and I think he's going to deliver.
Yeah. I mean, I put up that card. I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite, but I think I'm looking forward to this because I am such a huge Lucha Brothers mark, and I was so happy that they won the titles.
There's not a bad match on this card.
There is not.
They're all awesome.
I mean, there's not a bad out of 11 matches.
I want to see Santana Ortiz against the Lucha Bros, but when you look at this graphic, I mean, like, you step back and you're like, all right, this match is going to be killer. I mean, Butcher and the Blade finally get to see Butch back in action too. You see them in full strength. We've talked at length about Private Party, how talented they are. This is going to be a good one, SPD. A lot of favorites in there.
A lot of my favorites for sure. And, the other one I have to briefly talk about is, the Adam Cole, Young Bucks, Jurassic Express, Christian Cage. I mean, just the star power, it'll be the first time seeing the Young Bucks back in play. And, Young Bucks and Jurassic Express put on a great, have put on great matches in the past. And I think their chemistry together. So if they continue to do a feud after this, Adam Cole, just the culmination of like who's going against the Elite. I like where they're going. So that's why I feel like sooner than later we'll see Hangman, even though he has ties to Dark Order, kind of maybe be a savior, because they are outnumbered still. You talk about the Elite versus these three guys plus Brian Danielson. Like, there's not many others that have been coming to the aid, even though those are four.
Well, Moxley moved on. He was part of it too.
Yeah, Moxley moved on. So if you instantly bring Hangman back, not that he needed any more rub or any more pop like this, that would really elevate his.
Wow.
It's a tough call if you have Hangman come back on a show with CM Punk, Bryan Danielson. Like, who are those three guys? Like, who could get the biggest pop? I mean, really? Jeez.
Who?
I mean, just having the Super Click back is a big enough debut for me. I mean, or return for me. I mean, that's gonna
awesome.
be fun. I mean, and their styles in ring are gonna be so great together. As a genuine fan of Adam Cole and Young Bucks, their work, just seeing those three guys work off of each other, they're gonna click. SPD, I know you love tandem-based offense. Like, be ready. Be ready for this one, because like I have a feeling that Cole and the Bucks are gonna pull off some pretty incredible stuff together.
Your jaw's gonna be dropped by these guys. I mean, there's a reason why people love Adam Cole, man. Like, there's a reason why people are so excited about him being in AEW, because he's awesome. So it's gonna be a really fun. This match is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. There's not a bad match on the card.
It's gonna like, I mean, and we're only talking about that side of the ring. I mean, you talk about, I mean, Christian Cage and Jurassic Express. I know, again, Luchasaurus, a guy who really, themselves. Luchasaurus stands out a lot in this kind of match, and I think that he's going to be in bonds.
The only big guy.
The more we've seen recently, you've been a vocal critic of how he's been presented at times, and I think that you've seen recently them showcasing him in a better light and allowing him to be in situations that really allow him to shine. And I think this is going to be a great one, because he's going to stand out in such a big way. Pardon the pun, but it's such a big way in this match that I think he's going to have a lot of fun with these guys. I think this is going to be a lot of fun match. This match is going to be a blast to watch. Them kind of pinballing off of Luchasaurus and all that excitement going on.
Yeah, man.
That is right, man. I mean,
completely.
Well, that's going to wrap up our Dynamite Grand Slam sneak peek episode. We don't usually go on Tuesdays, but it was nice. I mean, we were graced with the presence of the salt of the earth himself, MJF.
Thank you, Max, for joining us.
We know you're still watching, so thank you so much for having another glowing
My biggest fan.
Yes, but we hope to see you guys. If you need a cool down tomorrow after such a big show, there we go. We should have put that up on the screen earlier. I meant to, but I was just kind of thrown off.
We were starstruck.
Max's
presence
by the salt of the earth himself. But if you guys want a little cool down, a little breather before bed, join us live again tomorrow right after Dynamite 10:10. We're going to go live and talk about the Grand Slam. We know it's going to be an awesome show. We appreciate you guys for joining us, and great to see some new faces and some friendly faces, familiar faces, for all the support. We really appreciate it. We are, this is our 1 year anniversary this week. So I can't believe how quick it's gone by, and a lot has come, from starting with, 2 viewers to no viewers to now, having almost 1,200 subscribers on YouTube, multiple interviews, MJF watching our show, Thunder Rosa watching our show, all that. So it's been a wild journey, and the best is yet to come, as they like to say. So thank you all so much. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you tomorrow night after an epic Dynamite. Baby.